All right, we're doing our usual Monday stream, but we're talking about something that's going to be a little bit different from what I typically discuss because I found this very interesting. Um, so bear with me as I describe the story that I'm going to get into. Um, this past Friday, I was talking with my best friend and we were having a conversation. And I mentioned before that when he and I have conversations, they tend to be varied in terms of what we discuss, like they're wide ranging. They tackle a lot of different topics. Sometimes talk about the romance stuff, sometimes talk about, some cartoon, some movie that might come out, just different things that don't always connect to each other, but because we're both interested in multiple topics that have to do with these different things, we'll still find a lot of things to discuss, which is one of the reasons I like speaking to them over a lot of people, because they're just not as interesting to me. Because they might be into one thing, but then they'll just sit there and talk about that and nothing else. Where he's kind of like a buffet of different things I find appealing or interesting to discuss. So we're having this conversation. I don't know if it's me because I know I didn't bring up X-Men because I've mentioned before I've been like reading some of the issues of X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, the original comic for that team. But at one point or another, I mentioned I think I mentioned Chris Claremont first because I was talking about how it's such a shame that the Dark Phoenix saga is like this really influential classic, by some considered great comic that gets turned into these very terrible adaptations. Whether that was X-Men 3 or the Dark Phoenix movie that was universally despised. And I think he says he doesn't know who Claremont is, or I ask him if he knows who he is, and I explain who he is because, there's a part of me that does understand where someone doesn't know who every comic writer is, even if I justify knowing who he is by his X-Men work because he's unrivaled when it comes to contributions to that team, that 15 plus year time that he spent as the writer. It's longer than anybody else's tenure on the book, but at one point, I mentioned Jack Kirby, and I ask him, or I make some comment like, "If you don't know who that is, I'm going to scream," like as a joke, like, "Hey, of course he knows who that is." And then his response is to assume this is the person that made the character Kirby, so the little like pink blob that absorbs people, the video game character. And I just put my head down in shame. For those who don't know, and I hate that I even have to say this, but I'll just explain it. Jack Kirby was an individual who worked for Timely Comics, the precursor to Marvel in the 1940s, and created Captain America with Joe Simon. And after serving in World War II, came back to Marvel when they finally took the name that they would be known under. And then along with Stan Lee created X-Men, Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Thor. And then after about 10 years, like going into the 70s with Marvel, and I guess overall 30 years with them, he decided to go to DC over feeling that he wasn't receiving the credit that he was entitled to as the creator of all these different properties. And then at DC, he wrote New Gods, a book that was like canceled and not really financially successful, but the characters DC chose to keep, which was another contribution that he made to that company. And he's really, in my opinion, one of the arguably three most important people in American comics ever. Because usually what happened with DC creators and Marvel creators that aren't Stan Lee is that they'll make one character that people know who they are, and then they'll have these different runs on other people's books. But other than Lee, Kirby's pretty much the only person that's involved with the creation of multiple characters that have either had movies made about them, had long-running hundreds of issues, comics, persisted for decades after they were made. It's just a very important figure. And, that's why I was so disturbed when my friend who is, an X-Men fan, a fan of all these different Marvel properties, didn't know who that was. He knew who Stan Lee was, in my opinion, probably because he's, in the different films making the cameos. But I guess the way I look at it is because his response was to say that the creation is always more remembered than the creator. And I was like, yeah, but the thing is, if someone is not a fan of The Simpsons, right? But they know what The Simpsons is, the cartoon. I don't expect them to know who Matt Groening is, because they're not a fan of the thing he made. But if you're someone who watches every season of that show and you don't know who made it, I think that's crazy. And I've never been like this. When I was a kid, I remember going on the internet because I mentioned the first time I had a computer was when a laptop, excuse me, was when I was in fourth grade. I remember going on the internet and looking up who made Dragon Ball, which is Akira Toriyama. And I remember specifically whenever there was a creator that made something I liked, trying to see who made it. With Naruto, back when I was really into that, before it fell off with Shippuden, I looked up Kishimoto. It's just, it's so strange to me that people can be invested in someone's work or the thing that they made, in all these different mediums, but then not know who they are. I give the example of my mother, for example. She's not, and I know I was a little redundant there, example, but she's not into American comics. She doesn't watch any of the films, just nothing, won't consume any of the media ever. But because that person doesn't try to show interest in this stuff, I'm not upset that they probably don't know who Jack Kirby or Stan Lee or Steve Ditko or any of these different people are, because they're not someone who's interested in this stuff. But if you're into it, I don't get how, you choose to just ignore, the people behind it. I remember the first time I found out who Chris Claremont was. I was on this one guy's channel. He was doing, it was like an X-Men retrospective, and the name Claremont just came. I was like, who is that? So I found, I was like, wow, he's on that book for 15 years. He wrote over 100 issues. Oof. But this is something I find really interesting, which is, I think there is something wrong with, not with a person like, oh, you're crazy or anything, but just I think something is wrong with the idea that you can make stuff that a person finds enjoyable or very interesting, important, whatever you want to term it as, and then you still end up not being remembered for making that thing. One of the reasons that the when Chameleon took my stuff and tried to be me and post on their channel, that was so disturbing, is because I'm not some well-known person on this website. So my only chance of being more well-known on this site is if I make content that is seen by multiple, like thousands or millions of people. And to have someone take that stuff, right, not credit you for making it, and then try to like siphon off the views of your stuff, by having it watched by these other people who more likely than not won't know who you are. It's really scary, just that you can make something and um, not receive credit for it. I know that was the case with Bill Finger and Bob Kane, the creators of Batman, where Bob Kane is considered to have been the one that basically took all of the rights from Finger after his death. Yeah, there was this one channel I used to watch. They hated Bob Kane. Every time they could find a reason to bring him up, they would say, "Oh, he paid other people to draw." What was it? It was either Detective Comics or Batman, one of those two. It's like, so we don't know who the actual artists are. But it's just, I guess you really can never do enough important things to actually be guaranteed to be remembered on. Because if I went up to some little kid that doesn't like comics or the MCU or any of that stuff, and they don't know who these people are, I'm not upset. But it's like these are grown, these are adult men who are not deprived of internet access. They can look this stuff up anytime they want to, and it's like I just don't get people, with like the stuff they are unwilling to do. Um, it's really sad. And they don't just do this with American comics. I should make that very clear. There's people who do this also with other stuff. But again, it's like mostly when I see individuals who don't want to know who the writer is or don't make an effort to know who created something, it's usually like kids as opposed to adults who just don't care to look it up. That's and I always try to like give the benefit of the doubt. So I say if people don't want to read a whole bunch of like hundreds of issues of comics, I get it. Even if I find a lot of them interesting, which is why I read them. But you should at least know who made it. Like imagine if I said, "Hey, let's watch Beetlejuice." Oh, you want to know who directed this? Oh, forget Tim Burton. Let's just watch it. And if you keep watching this movie over and over, if you really like it, I don't see the harm in knowing who the person is who directed it. I just think when people make stuff, they should get credit, especially if you like it. If you're not interested in it, you don't show it, whatever. But if you like something, I don't see the point of not knowing who made it, who was behind it. That's really bizarre to me. I remember this one person said that writers are like not celebrities. People don't go up and do, and it's like yeah, but if you write stuff that people like, and actually that part of it isn't really that true. It's just people don't read as much as they used to, so it's harder to get support if you're a writer. But still, it's like if you make something people like, I think, and we've seen this before where they have these conventions, like Comic Con, for example, people go there and get autographs. So there is a group of people who are invested in knowing who someone is when they write stuff they like. It's just it was so disturbing to me that a person who has contributed more to comics than almost anybody else, referring to Kirby, was not known by this individual who, in a heartbeat, would say that he likes all of these different series he made. I remember an actor met Antoine Faga, director of Training Day, but he didn't know who he was, so he had to mention he made Training Day. The thing, I guess I understand that, but it goes back to my thing of how if you make something that a person likes, or you make multiple things that a person likes, they should try to figure out who made it. Imagine like in Star Wars and not knowing who George Lucas is. Who's that guy in that with that white beard? I don't know. Hell, the Star Wars people are the only ones I've actually seen who make a real effort to know who everybody is. They go and try to get autographs from all the actors. I remember every time something happened in Clone Wars, and like they would talk about Dave Filoni. They just always find a way to, they're one of the, like, I have problems with that community because that's why I'll never make, if I ever talk about Star Wars, it won't be in something with that in the title because I'm not trying to get any of them on my stuff. But, uh, you know, it's funny that like that group always remembers. Star Wars was so huge though. So was Marvel. You realize that the MCU has made over $1 billion, right? They've had multiple movies about Captain America. They've had multiple movies featuring Hulk. They've had multiple movies about Iron Man. X-Men had a film series before pretty much any Marvel character. Uh, and it's like all of these properties were made by Jack Kirby. All of these films were watched by this friend of mine. And he didn't know who the person who made all of these properties was, which is insane. Marvel is bigger now than it's ever been. I mean, you say that like Marvel got small, where they were like they've been on a just financial boom for over the last 10 years. Terrible comparison. Star Wars was so huge though. You think Marvel is small? Marvel still holds the record for the best-selling comic ever, X-Men #1, written by Claremont and drawn by Jim Lee. Like they're not any minor company at all, and their properties are being seen by more and more people because of the films. That's why it's insane to me that this person didn't know who the creator behind a very large portion of these properties was. But then Akatsuki Merchant, he really said Star Wars was so huge, though, as if Marvel isn't. Dude, the last time Marvel ever had to worry about like fading into obscurity was during the '90s, and they were going bankrupt, and they sold the film rights of it was Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and X-Men to different studios. Ever since then, they've just been going up and up. That company is never, especially after Disney bought them. Mm-mm. Meanwhile, Star Wars has actually been going down. You can go look at the sales of Episode 7, 8, and 9, and it's a decline. That's why that's ironic that Marvel goes up, Star Wars goes down. Oh my god. Now I'm gonna get James for that, trying to pretend that Marvel is like a little tiny company. Nah, Marvel as a company is massive. People don't even read comics know what Marvel is. Not to mention they've been making heroes more diverse to appeal to wider demographics. I know what I'm saying is the ones that have been around for a long time, like Cap or Iron Man or Hulk, are even more popular than they were 20 or 30 years ago because now they're starring in movies that are being seen by either millions or billions of people. That's why it's insane when someone makes one of those characters, you don't know who it is, because again, this is not some minor character you've never heard of before. What I mean is that George Lucas is the face of Star Wars who made the film. Someone, Jack Kirby, made the comics but never got the recognition he deserves. Yeah, that's the thing, that he wasn't alive when the MCU started taking off. But again, my point is, if someone likes those films and likes the characters in those films, they should know who made them. For anyone who knows Marvel Comics knows who Jack Kirby is. Yeah, adults do usually. Like, my dad, for example, knew who he was. But people, like, there's a lot of people who just watch this stuff and they don't even care who made it. They'll talk more about the director than they'll, about the person who actually made the stuff. Well, that's why I found it so disturbing because, like, my little brother, that's a kid. I expect kids to not take the initiative to know who made something, but an adult man who, claims to be into this stuff, I was really taken aback. I just found that very disturbing. I don't know. I'm discovering, thanks to just recent encounters, there's a lot of stuff that people don't know. Like, I was on Instagram and they had this one. Uh, I guess it was a girl. I don't know how old she was, but she was talking about Marvel, and then I mentioned Venom and Carnage, and she didn't even know who they were. Two of the most important, iconic comic book villains. Not like A tier for Carnage, but probably like B tier. It's like, how do you not, whatever. I'd say out of the ones that have been introduced in the last 30 years, he's definitely in like the top 10 in terms of just instant memorability. Like, there's really no villains after the 70s and 80s that are as big of a thing as Carnage. Like, they're really just, if I think of 90s made comic characters that like are used and people know who they are, it's pretty much just Superboy and Carnage. because he had a video game made about him before, and appear in any of the movies or anything. That Maximum Carnage game about the story, the 14 issue epic. No, he was everywhere. I can't wait for James to make some important show or comic, and then I like the show or comic, but I don't know who he is. I told you, in Japan, they always remember the guys who made stuff over there. Every time I speak to a Dragon Ball fan from Japan, they know who Akira Toriyama is. And he doesn't even do interviews or like actual, that's, I don't know, Akatsuki Merchant, if you noticed this, but Japanese creators they have like a really common trait of not showing themselves. Like they tend to hide and not really do interviews. Have you ever noticed that? Because I swear I've only ever seen one interview from Toriyama, and that was like 30 years ago. He was from the 80s that somebody put on YouTube. And the only time I ever saw a recent picture of him was when he came to my state when Dragon Ball Evolution was premiering. This is, I think, 2009. Yeah. But that's why I think is ironic that like people know who they are and they don't even show their face. They just see their name on a book and they go and like look up, stuff about it. But then American artists, right? Like you can find multiple interviews of Kirby on YouTube, for example. It's like they're out and about and they do interviews, they might talk about their book, whatever, and then, we just don't care, so we don't remember who they are. It's really sad. Kentaro Miura is a good example of not putting himself out there, but they know his work like Berserk. Yeah, but I'm saying that's something that a lot of Japanese creators have in common. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a picture of Kishimoto. I know that there are some that are probably online, but he's kind of like Toriyama, where they don't really do interviews. They just make something, and you know, if they do an interview, it's like written. Very seldom do you actually see them go out, but people still know who they are. Like I said, if you're a comic creator in Japan, you get respect, you get accolade. People actually care to know who made this stuff because they're just a lot more respectful over there. And in the U.S., you could make every damn character that appears in these films and books and all the rest of that, and nobody cares. Might as well not even exist. I mean, like, I don't particularly follow sports, but I would never say you should know who Michael Jordan is or Kobe. Like those are very influential players in terms of basketball. Just at a certain point, there is a period where an artist or a person transcends the medium they're in to become a household name that I think everybody should at least be familiar with to some extent. Like like for example, before I even looked into wrestling, I knew who Hulk Hogan was, just because he would get mentioned by people in different stuff that wasn't about wrestling that I would watch. He was in a lot of the games. Like it really feels like the only group I see that doesn't get their respects are American writers and artists. Yeah, Japanese culture puts a big emphasis on respect and humility. Most manga writers hide their faces because they don't need recognition for their hard work. Right, but my point is, it theoretically should be harder to know who someone is that doesn't do interviews and hides their face, but people know who they are. Which is why it's so insane that with these American creators, they're all much more like Dan Snott, for example, is on Twitter. He's done all kinds of interviews that are on YouTube. Like his face is out there, but unless you have had the terror of reading some comic he wrote over the last 10 years, you're not going to know who that is, probably. I don't know if I should even take it as a slight to Kirby that he didn't know who that was, because the only person he remembered was Stan. So if anybody else writes a book that's not Stan, he doesn't even know who you are. And I think that's really crappy because there are a lot of important people in the comic industry, like Gary Conway. He's the person that killed off Gwen, which was the first time a love interest ever died in an American comic. Very controversial. Got death threats over it. He wasn't even. I think it was like 19 when he wrote it, very, very young, and just got all these scorns of fans to start, cursing him out and whatnot. He made Punisher. Just an important writer, I would say. But it would make a lot more sense to me if someone doesn't know who he is because he is not behind as many characters or events as Kirby or Lee, or hell, possibly even Ditko if you want to throw him in there too. It's because of how sensationalized American culture is. No one appreciates the hard work that goes into producing media. They just like the aesthetic success. Yeah, it's really sad because some of the media that comes out after the original success tends to be worse than it. And then people, like I said, with the Dark Phoenix saga, I think is a great book. But outside of the 90s X-Men series, every time it gets adapted into something, it's garbage. Because first of all, it's a pretty long comic. It's like 8 or 9 issues. And to take that and try to squeeze it into a 2-hour movie, I just, whatever. Imagine like a Family Guy and you don't know who Seth MacFarlane is. Like, who's that? I remember I used to get it mixed up with was it Todd McFarlane, the creator of Venom? But I still knew who that was. Now, if somebody makes something I like, I always try to figure out who it was or who made it. Because I think it's very important that if someone creates something you enjoy, whether that's a character, a story, you should know who did it. I remember me and my brother were watching Falcon and Winter Soldier. We watched Captain America: The Winter Soldier, the second movie. I explained to him that Bucky was this sidekick that was dead and just only appeared in flashback stories for 40 years. And then Ed Brubaker dug him up and brought him back as Winter Soldier. And he used to be one of, what was it, like 3 characters that were actually staying dead in comics. It was him, Jason Todd, and Uncle Ben. And then both him and Todd got brought back within a year of each other. No, in the United States, nobody respects writers or artists. Even the most important ones like Kirby, you actually have people who don't know who they are that are into this stuff. Because I have to keep giving that specific issue I have with it, that these aren't just random individuals I'm asking to know who this man is. These are people who, claim to like his characters, but then don't know who he is, which is insane to me. The project is always bigger than the creator. That's actually not even true, by the way. That the thing that a person makes is bigger than they are, because there are a lot of people that like Toriyama that only like Dragon Ball. They've never read Doctor Slump. It's like even his example wasn't true. Just like I know a lot of people who like Matt Groening and The Simpsons, but have never seen Futurama. It's funny, there's a lot of times where someone makes multiple, like, influential or remembered series, but then one of them is much less successful than the other one, so people never even know about it. I can't wait for Akatsuki Merchant to make, something important, and then we can forget who he is while we enjoy it. It's like, "Man, this is a really well-written story. I wonder who made it. Oh, well." It's that like that's what was always crazy to me about people. They have no imagination, no curiosity. Just because when I was a kid, I wondered who made Spider Man, who made Batman, who made Superman. Like, and it was all there. Like, I hate WikiPiss, but before I became a user on there, I did used to frequent that site just to figure out who made what because there were a lot of different names that were thrown around. How sensationalized American culture is. It's very sensationalized. No, the project wouldn't exist without the creator. This is something people say to cover up the fact they're ignorant of something. Yeah, he said the same thing because I was like getting, just kind of expressing my frustration over people that like don't read comics, but then want to watch all these different movies and shows. And his response was to say that if it didn't happen in like a show, it doesn't count to him. And I was like, well, that's kind of an oxymoron. If it didn't happen in the comics, it wouldn't happen in the show. Like the comics are always the thing that originated the show, and that's not even just for American ones like you know the ones we mentioned earlier. But it's like you wouldn't have any of these animes if you didn't have the manga. I always prefer the manga because it's faster paced. Like when I decided to finally read through all of Shippuden this year, I was like, I'm not going to watch the show. I don't. Why should I watch 500 episodes that are going to take me probably a month or two if I watch 10 of them a day, even when I can just read the manga in a few weeks. No, people just don't have respect for comics, and it's really a damn shame. Because we're not even just talking about American ones where people like, just pretend those don't exist. But it's the same thing with mangas where like I've seen a lot of people who will say they won't watch a show like the anime because it's so long, but then they won't read the manga, which is faster paced, where you can read literally 4 chapters in the time it takes to watch one episode. So get this right. They can't watch it because it takes too long, but they also can't read it, which is faster because they don't like reading. So it's like, dude, the only comic I would understand people not wanting to read is the Dragon Ball Super manga because each chapter is like 40 something pages. Like, yeah, it's pretty excessive. Sorry if I don't talk a lot this stream. It's my birthday. I wanted to pop a little while I could. Oh, you didn't say it was your birthday. You said you and in my name, I mean. Okay, well, happy birthday then. I would sing the song, but then I would get copyrighted. It's just there are a lot of really important people in American comics, and I don't know if it's the fact that I like to write that makes me like care about who wrote stuff, but some of these people are like mammoths. Like Kirby is always going to be an important person because the majority of Marvel's major characters are still ones that he made. So when I see him being denied credit for that, it's just it's such a crime. It's like terrorism because I always try to put myself in the shoes of the person that made the stuff. If I made several properties that had hundreds of issues of them, decades after I had passed, and we're getting these, major $1 million movies made about them as well, I'd want credit. And you know what? You saw a really good example of how ridiculous this is. So Steve Ditko, the co-creator of Spider-Man, along with Stanley, he did an interview in It was either 2012, 13, 14, or 15. It's before the MCU rebooted Spider-Man, and he said that he did not get paid or compensation for the live action Spider-Man movies. So there's a good chance that even if Kirby had lived to the era where they started doing a lot of this MCU stuff, he still wouldn't have been getting the credit he deserved for making these things, which is really pathetic. It's sad, man. It's really terrible. One of the most influential men in the entire history of entertainment, and you can't even remember who he is. Hell, I don't even like Toyotaro, but if you watch Super or I guess read the manga, I think you should know who that is. Like I'm not against giving people credit when they make something, even if I don't like it personally. Like I'm not a Harry Potter fan in the slightest. I've never read any of the books. I don't find it like something I'd want to get into, but I still know who J.K. Rowling's is because she made a very very successful book series that I have to give it. I have to at least admit its accolade. Yeah, they would. You start singing the song, and then you see like a little like the stream starts buffering. People just digest this stuff and move on to something else with no consideration for the people who worked on the media that they take for granted. Yeah, they just don't care. I guess that's the best way to put it. People just don't care. And Banana Merchant, there was like when I was doing those president documentaries, I only did two of them because it like takes a script and you have to grab clips and just it's a pretty complicated process. But the whole point of doing that was to take lesser known ones and kind of like highlight them in a way that you normally don't see because when you see documentaries, it's on the bigger ones, not the lesser known ones like William Howard Taft or Andrew Johnson. So, it's like people just really have this thing where they want people to be forgotten. They don't care. They don't pay attention. It's just whatever to them. And it's like I kind of understand where people who don't care about politics don't care about these people, but it's like you know, if you're into entertainment, and it's like I know very few people who are adult males, right? Just in the current era that aren't into either Japanese stuff, Dragon Ball, the other stuff, or American stuff. And it's like I don't get how you don't know who these people are if they created the things that you claim to be a fan of. With all these short videos nowadays, people have very short attention spans, and there are people out here who capitalize on that. I know they're it's really pathetic and disturbing and sad and ridiculous. I just think people are lazy. That's I guess the best way to put it. I think if you're so like if you have a smartphone and you can't look up who made something that you claim to like, I don't get you. But again, it was the same way I felt when I found out that people like adamantly will not read an American comic. Like I always would say, oh, I get where people don't want to read a regular novel, but a book with pictures. It's really sad. I don't know. I just think the whole like comic industry and maybe my ideals are different. I think that when people do stuff that is important to you on either a personal level or a um, just objective level, you should remember who they are. I do think people are about the artist. It's just care about the artist. It's just that if they have to do some work and researching, but it's not work. Like I told you, if you want to know who made a character, you just look it up. You click, you type in who created Captain America, and then Jack Kirby appears. Like, I mean, the way you type it, it sounds like it's some kind of archaeological dig. It's just type in this character's name, and then you go on Wikipedia or you go on Google. Sometimes you'll say who created this character, and then it says it. Yeah, they won't do it because they're lazy. James, it's the same thing with people who don't read comics. It's like I have a video of a guy who admitted he doesn't like reading comics because he doesn't like flipping pages. Even though you can go online, you just click a button. You just read the text, see a little funny picture, click the button. A lot of stuff people won't do is just because they're lazy. Like people, I know a guy wouldn't watch an 18-minute video I did after saying he would do it for a month because he was lazy. They can't watch a video. They can't read a comic. They can't look up who made something they can't claim to care about. What else do you call this other than laziness? What other name would it fall under? James, imagine if you made something and people could find out who it was, so they would see that it was your name if they just looked up the creation. It'll be like, oh, it's created by this person, and they can't do like they never do it, and they just go, oh, I know what that is, but who's the person who made that? No, that was funny when he said that the art is always more well known than the creator. Like, no, I didn't say this to him. But it was like more people know who Toriyama is than they know Doctor Slump. Like I said, there's a whole bunch of people never even hell. There's people who've never even seen the original Dragon Ball, which I think is even more crazy personally because I like that. That's like whatever. I'm not even gonna get into that. What's that other one? There for Todd McFarlane, there are people who only read his Marvel stuff. They've never read Spawn. So, it's just that was a nice little assumption that he made, even though it's not true. Yeah, they won't do it because they're lazy. I don't know, I just think there are a lot of really important people, right? Just in every industry, and that the like really big ones should be known by even people that aren't into this stuff, but especially by people who are into that stuff. Like my dad doesn't sit around reading comics, but he knows who, the big creators are and the big stories. And that's why I always had a problem with these people because it was like I'm not some person who's read every Batman comic, but I still know about Christ on Infinite Earths. I still know that Joker was supposed to get killed off in his first appearance. I still know that Robin was made so that he could have somebody to talk to. That Robin showed up before Alfred, and then Alfred was retroactively made into being the family butler. It's like you don't have to read these books to know this stuff because it's all available online. You know, TikTok videos is a great example of these short, quippy videos made with little to no effort, but it gets called content. So when I make those romance videos, I write a whole script, grab the screenshots. A lot of times I have writer's block with why it might take like a week or two for them to get made. It's just, and then I'm trying to do these videos, me playing this one game on my phone, and I have the footage recorded, but I also wanted to put commentary over it, so it's not just you watching me play a game with nothing being said. To like make it, specific, because it's like you're not watching this random footage because, oh my god, this game looks so amazing. You're watching it because the person who is presumably because of the person that's playing it. So it has to have more of a personalized touch to it if I speak over it. TikTok. I've never been on that website. I mean, I don't even know what that website looks like. I'm staying away from it because every time I hear about it, it sounds like trash. Here's a website with even more low effort content than YouTube. Sign me up. I thought the lowest effort you could get from YouTube was the reaction videos where they take someone else's stuff and they go, well, I guess I was proven wrong. I'll never forget when reaction videos first started showing up. I was like, why did these get thousands of views? I don't understand. And they have all these likes. It was so bizarre. I'm just gonna take all these different shows and I'm gonna make videos. And then I'll get thousands of views from that because nobody cares about the news. Nobody cares you can't get a date. It's just like just take somebody else's thing, make some stupid faces, and then you'll get a bunch of views off of it. Oh my god. I guess maybe since you don't make content, you don't understand what it's like. But just imagine like trying so hard to spice your stuff up. Like you always try to make it to where there's not a week where it's just political stuff. Like you try to always throw in some other thing for a person to watch if they're not into that, and then you still don't get any bigger ever. And then even if you get a video that gets more views and people subscribe, they don't watch you anyway. So you're just constantly stuck in this like cycle of never getting any larger. And then people are like, well, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. And then they don't even have big channels themselves. That site really ran by kids and teenagers though too. Oh, man, don't play that because you don't act like I was 90 years old when I started making edited videos. There are plenty of teens that can do that. Hell, the first episode of my show was made when I was 18, so let's not play that game. You're probably gonna get a lot of views doing that. Yeah, put up some stolen video and go. That's just I just that's why I said YouTube and the internet is like the Twilight Zone. It's just things that make no sense happen on here. Videos where people steal someone else's stuff and make faces to it, getting thousands of views, as if no one's done that before. Because there are some people who have large channels where I understand. Like I'm not a fan of Shane Dawson, but I will admit that back when he started, there wasn't really anyone making skit videos with real effort in it. A script and different costumes and sets and whatnot. But the people that get large are just like those family channels really annoy me because it's literally someone and their ridiculous spouse taking their kid and sticking them up in front of a camera for everybody to go, oh my god, they're so cute, as if you've never seen a child before. So yeah, I don't get these this website at all anymore. It is made for someone else. Someone should actually bring back the Twilight Zone and have an episode about YouTube and just have people reacting at how bizarre it is, what type of, because even with the music videos, it's like I understand music always tending to have more views than people speaking because people like just throw their heads and whatnot. Um, but even then, it's like some of the songs that get a bunch of views, I don't think are good, and it's just so puzzling to me, you know. Oh yeah, they use their children for views. And remember, YouTube had a policy they implemented about you can't put minors in video. Like you put a kid in a video, it'll turn the comments off. So I've actually seen people, by the way, upload clips of like movies from the 80s and 90s that have a child in it that's now a grown adult and be like, you can't, this video has a kid in it, you can't put the comments on. No, those family channels are terrible. It's just exploitation. That's all it is. Because like if two adults get in front of a camera, like if it was let's say James did videos with his dad, for example, just as an example. You know, James is an adult, his dad's an adult, whatever. But it's like you have a kid and you put him in front of a camera so that people on the internet go, "Oh, look at how cute he is." Knowing Day's songs could the same but gets millions of views. Sound the same but get millions of views. Every song sounds the same, and all they do is change the beat a little bit and have some different lyrics, and they'll still get millions of views. I tell you, I don't even believe in the just in actually making efforts on this site anymore. Like, I fully am subscribed to the idea that you can try as hard as you may, but just if you're like certain people, it will never work out for because there's too many people on here. And this stuff can really drive you nuts because, like, for a long time, I was trying to get more subs, and I was like, wait, so if you get more subs, they still don't watch. So what's the point? Like after 1,000, um, there's really no novelty or good use for subs because then you're monetized and you can, if people actually watch, you can get paid for it. But like, there's really no difference between having 2,000 and 200,000 subscribers outside of getting a plaque if people don't watch, you know, which is what most subs do. They are dormant. They don't watch any of the stuff the person puts up. Like I remember watching TFS get millions of views and they put up, you know, Dragon Ball Abridged. And then when they started doing those podcasts and unabridged and all the other stuff, they couldn't even get 500,000 on a channel with millions of subscribers, which is pathetic. But again, it's not an insult of them or saying that that was a bad video, or it's just people have a specific thing that if it's not met, they act like you don't exist. So if people are able to get views, it's usually some specific type of video they do. And if they talk about anything else, it drops massively. I know this one guy has a political channel. He's got about 70,000 subscribers. He tried to talk about Dragon Ball. It was just like me. He couldn't get any traction. He gave up after like 2 videos. And it was funny because it's like he's way more well known than I am because he's crossed into the tens of thousands, like, you know, just completely decimated me in terms of subs. But it's like he's getting the same, you know, results because there's a couple of people at the top, right? Everybody else just sits down here forever, and you can try as hard as you want. You can make videos that are edited. You can, you know, go and flood people's comment sections with comments. It just never works out. And you know, that's why I said you really can't let views on this site discourage you from doing stuff because people on this site just don't care. They don't care about effort. They don't care about how much you try. You don't matter to them. You're nothing. And you see this exact same philosophy play out with when people don't remember someone like Jack Kirby. This is a very important man, made all the characters in these movies. But because they don't respect anyone's hard work ever, it's, you know, nothing to them. I think you hit the jackpot by doing the romance videos because it's a really huge topic back then. I mean, yeah, but you notice if I make a recent one, like some of those from years ago have thousands of views. That's correct. Which is the point of making them. I didn't see anybody else talking about the way I talked about it, and I still don't. Like, there are people who give advice. There are people who say women are whatever, but they don't talk about getting rejected over and over. But you know, if I do a recent one, it still usually gets about its highest at about 100 something views. So it's still not like getting a bunch of traction or anything. The only video this year I had that broke 1,000 views was the stream on Jenk and the clown comments he was making about Greenwald and Jimmy Dore. I might even talk about them again. I like the views I saw on that. I just hate that you get 100 new subscribers and like only 2 of them actually show up on your stuff after that. You know what I mean? It's like even when something like this is the only site where you can lose by winning. Like if you told somebody you're gonna get 100 new subs this month, wouldn't they be happy? Like, oh, that's good. And then nobody watches. Like, okay, then what was the point? So this is the only website where you can lose by winning. The thing about the music is that songs that you can get used in commercials do not get that many views. Like a song that's used in the Gatorade commercial only has 80,000. Yeah, there are. Well, listen, an 80,000 view song isn't that much, but if you consider that the band that made that probably is not worldwide known, like Linkin Park or 3 Day Grace or some other Rihanna, one of them, it still is much better than someone who's just doing videos about the news or some other topic. As I've gotten older, I've started to learn that not everyone who gives you advice has your best interest in mind. Of course. But see, the advice that people give online it tends to be antagonistic, and it tends to like always find a way to blame you. If you didn't talk about this, you would have more subscribers. If you did that, I had one in my the new romance video I'm doing, the one on work on yourself being ridiculous. I show a comment from a woman who says the end of her comment, women who watch your videos will be cautious about approaching you as you seem to judge them harshly over every little thing. And I'm like, what an empty threat. First of all, I've never had a single woman in real life approach me. Never happened because they're cowards. They don't approach men, including the ones that they find attractive ever. So I'm being told that a group of people who never approached me are going to begin with, are going to be cautious about approaching me because of my videos, even though they already weren't approaching me to begin with. So, there is literally no difference being made here. You're telling the person who was starved of female attention year after year, oh, this is going to have a negative impact on your already non-existent love life. You see where it's like the goofiness and the antagonism, and like even the threat doesn't work because they're already doing it. The people who already don't approach you are going to be even more cautious about not approaching you. Oh my God. It's the emptiest threat I've ever seen. They just want to talk down on you for not meeting their standards. I told you nobody can meet their standards because even if you do the stuff they outline, they're just going to say you're too ugly or you're too short or you probably did this. Because remember, that's the fan fiction where they make up stuff. Like, the guy that said you probably approached in a weird way that never saw me approach a single woman ever. Like, that's my point, that there's no purpose in taking the advice of people whose purpose is to always blame you for what women do. The women that approach have masculine personality. Yeah, but it's like, this is my point. If a group of people already doesn't say something to you, and then somebody threatens you by saying, "Oh, they're going to be cautious about approaching you because of what you said," it's like they already weren't saying anything to begin with. Like trying to say that making content about this stuff somehow hurts you or stops you from getting with someone is BS. Because they already were ignoring you before you made it. I got rejected for years, not a single romance video made. And I saw right to hell with it. I'm tired of not saying anything. First romance video I did was in 2015. That is a 4-year gap between the first time I got rejected and then, doing that first video. It's really nuts. Like people they come up with anything to explain away their own ridiculousness. This person that was getting ignored by women because he makes videos on this is going to get ignored by, so they already were doing that. Well, it's like this. Take a look at yourself back when you were in high school, and now look at you in the future, still single in the past 15 years. I mean, 15 years ago, I was what, 7? So I wasn't trying to get a girlfriend. But it's again, my point is, if you're already getting the bad result, then you can't get a. It's kind of like if someone says to a person with the cold, if you go outside, you're gonna get a cold. It's like, I can't get a double cold. I already have it. The person that smokes and has lung cancer, if you smoke more, you're gonna get a lung disease. Like I can't get a double cancer. I don't know what he's trying to get at. I mean, James, you know how it is. Every stream, there's always some one person writing something confusing, not elaborating. We have a whole segment in the video about that guy that kept doing that with that black avatar, where like the avatar is a black screen. No, there's a whole like because that one person that ended up getting banned, he was on my channel for 4 months, and before I got rid of him, I screenshotted all of his comments. And every time we would ask him, "What are you talking about?" he would not elaborate. What I'm trying to say, you would have been successful by now. I mean, yeah, it's basic pattern recognition skills. If you keep getting rejected year after year, there's not going to be some magic event where a woman finally recognizes you as not being a piece of garbage. But again, they treat everybody like this. That's why there's whole groups about it online. People online like to write vague crap and then never explain further because they intuitively feel like it's the right thing to say. And also because it allows them to justify the stuff that's happening to you because of their just world fallacy. Like the broad that said I would prematurely stop speaking to a woman that was interested, but then doesn't explain what prematurely is. How long are you supposed to talk to this person that doesn't even like you before you're allowed to walk away? Dude, imagine if I said that to a woman, you will prematurely stop talking to a man that likes you. It's like, doesn't that sound like it's entitlement that I must speak to this person for this undefined designated of time before I'm allowed to walk away? You get how like, you know, again, when you're a man, you just people can say whatever they want about you, no consequence. No pushback, nothing. I don't know, chick stuff is just like it's all part of the same issue where people just don't treat others like human beings. Like, I'm not one of 30 men talking to random broad, but that's what they want me to be. And they always want to gas you up with stuff to get you to believe you're going to play some special role to her. It's like, no, she has all these other men talking to her. Good luck standing out. None of these romance guys ever want to address that. They always leave out that fact. Because it's easier to make it your fault if they like convince themselves, oh yeah, you didn't have 30 other people running against you for this woman's attention. Again, if the genders were reversed, nobody would do this. Like if James had 10 women trying to talk to him and he rejected 9 of them, nobody would tell the other 9, you have to go to the gym, you have to have the money, you have to have a mouthpiece, you have to have confidence. Like no one. I tell you, every angle that you look at this chick stuff from, it does not sound appealing at all. You get your time wasted, you get led on, you get harassed by other men on the computer. People sell you fairy tale BS. Love is like a game of chess, just don't let her win. Well, I don't know how they win. They seem to really enjoy getting attention from men, you know? Like if you go and watch the what was that video called? The Women's Many Many Options video. I showed where the one woman said, she had too many messages to handle. It's like, you're not gonna date most of or probably any of these men, but then you're still gonna talk to all of them, are still trying to respond to loads of them. Stuff like that's weird to me. It's like the victory for a man is getting a date because he wants companionship from someone, and the victory for a woman is like just getting attention from men because of her magic triangle. Like they take advantage of the fact that most men don't seem to get as much attention from a woman as they want, so they like go out and try to get it, and then they try to get what they want out of you while not giving you what you want, and people call that equality. And say that you're supposed to be incentivized to talk to these people that don't like you because one day magic woman will show up and like you. That's why we said the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. It's like why do all this stuff for someone that isn't doing any of it. This is why I don't trust anything anyone says online because a lot of them are operating on limited knowledge that they got from YouTube videos and lie about their credentials. I already told you most of the guys that write that romance stuff about you need to do this, they're not even doing that themselves. And if they are, they haven't shown proof that they're with a woman ever. They just come on here to beat you over the head because they like harassing people and trying to make themselves sound like they're so successful. There is no way in hell if I had a wife or girlfriend, I'd be watching videos on how people weren't getting with one. That's stupid. That should be the first sign that something's wrong. Just like there was that one broad that came on James's video talking about the great guy she was. And I was like, why are you here? That's like having a car, like what you call a great car, right? Then you go to a car dealership. It's like I'm just browsing. I have a great car, but I just want to look around. It's like, what's wrong with you? All that muscle and you're still a crap person. Well, I told you that, like that's why the self-improvement stuff is a waste of time to me because it's never not going to be your fault. You could exercise until you have a 12 pack, and these people are still going to say, you probably lack confidence. You probably approach in a weird way. You're probably 4'1. Just you're probably ugly or you are ugly. Just all they do is nitpick the ever living hell out of you and then get surprised and you don't want to put up with this anymore. Do they act like every woman is a supermodel the way they talk to you? Because I showed my friend, the one we talked about earlier, the picture of that woman that had too many messages to handle, and he was like, she's not. He doesn't think she's unattractive, but she's certain like you would not think a person with that many men approaching her looks like that. Same thing when he saw the dingbat with the baby. When I showed him a picture of her, he said that she didn't look like someone that was worth spending all of these thousands of dollars for them to keep their stuff in for a year while they cheated on you and cursed you out over the phone. And he agreed with my conclusion that a lot of this is just men are worried that they'll never get somebody, so they put up with all kind of ridiculous stuff from women because they're incentivized to like have this extreme amount of patience with her while never getting the same in return. They always say it's just my opinion as if that's supposed to absolve themselves of ignorant crap. That yeah, they love to hide behind that. They either say it's their opinion or they try to make themselves sound like if you don't do what they tell you to do, then you're screwed. Even though, like I said, you could do that stuff and they would still blame you anyway if it doesn't work out. Because in this, your only vindication is if a woman says yes. Like your worth as a person to them is determined by if a random woman who in a lot of instances has never accomplished a single thing, likes you back. My friend had an ex that dumped him because he was trying to get in shape. Well, like I said, man, I go in the real world. I don't like when I see couples, I don't see these muscle bound men that these clowns on the computer are talking about. Like you don't need muscles to get a date. I've seen that happen repeatedly. But the way they spin it, like, and then a lot of these guys don't even have money. Like they're whatever. It's like I said, you go in the real world and you'll see a lot of the stuff people say on here just getting shattered over and over. Yeah, and if you do see them in, oh, if you do see them in shape, it's very rare, very rare. Yeah, I don't know what these people like are on. That's why I said a lot of these guys on the computer, they either are saying stuff that is ridiculous on purpose, or they're so like used to just sitting in their basement that they develop these ideas that just aren't true. We can ask for a lot of things, but when it comes to a woman, it's like a job survey for us. Yeah, a job survey where there's like 30 other applicants. Broke as a joke. Well, see, that's another thing I was talking about. It's like, why do you have to have a bunch of money to get a date? Like, that's why I said people should just come out and admit that women are gold diggers because they're telling you that you need to have all of this wealth so that someone will like you for who you are. Like, the hell? I tell you, if I came on here and said a woman needs to have, let me think of the phrases, lots of money, uh, or a degree or financial balance. Like if I said any of this stuff, people would like to get a date with me, a woman had to have those things, people would laugh at me. And that's how you know that the stuff these guys are saying is insane. Because whenever you flip the genders and it sounds like crazy, that's how you know. So James could have 1 million subscribers, and nobody would tell a woman that to get with him, she needs to go to the gym and be in shape and have a physique and have good grooming. They don't have to do anything to appeal to you. They can just be themselves. But when you want to be yourself, it's a problem. And this is why I said talking to people on here is not worth your time because they'll always find a fault in you so that they don't have to criticize women ever. And then they're surprised when nobody wants to listen to them or talk to them. I don't believe I asked for a lot of things. I think I've been asked for a lot of things because I you read the comment section I have. But then again, I do see why they do give out this unsolicited advice because they are so many men trying to go out with one woman they find attractive. Yeah, but again, they the stuff they say is like an oxymoron because if you know that there's a lot of men approaching one woman, telling someone to do all of this stuff so that that one person might like them is insane. And again, we know it's insane because if it was 30 women talking to James, none of them would be told they have to go to the gym or become a millionaire so that he might find them attractive. Any way you spin it, I just don't see what this chick stuff does for people. Like, if I wanted to go and get banged by a hooker, no one's gonna sit there and go, well, if you want her to like you back, because they know that you give the person a certain amount of money, they'll do it. You have to talk to that person for 10 months. You have to try to do some weird negotiation. People do that in real life too, talk trash to you, and when you won't pick up with it, they're like, you just don't want to improve yourself. Well, I told you the improvement stuff is just like a never ending maze that they're going to keep finding ways to expand and blame you for. It's a never-ending series of loops that you're supposed to jump through for someone that doesn't jump through a single one, but gets away with not doing that because of her gender. My thing is, why try if you have to compete with 30 other men to get this one chick? It feels like a waste of time. It is. But again, that's why they like if you go and watch videos on how to get a girlfriend, right, or these self-improvement videos, you will never see any of them bring up all of these other men that talk to the same woman because when they if they acknowledge that that is them stepping away from the Disneyland fantasy of like the mind over matter. If you believe in yourself, you can do anything you want. um, and having to admit there are external factors that prevent you from being successful, such as loads of competition. And now sometimes the competition doesn't succeed either. I told you that the woman that was in that video, the women's many many options video, she dated a man in real life. So like she wasted the time of everybody on Reddit, including yours truly. And they're gonna try to get mad because I didn't want to be friend zoned. It really is disturbing how many chicks have tried to ask me, "Can we be friends?" Like, I'm so glad I always either say no or don't respond because, again, I am a sore loser. I believe if someone doesn't meet my needs, I shouldn't meet theirs. I think that's only fair. You know, it's just it's really comedic because like all these guys say, "Oh, you probably are boring and you're not likable," but then why do they want to talk to me even after they reject me? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and you have to stay away from fast food if you want to gym max to get a six pack and get that. Yeah, I don't even know what them type of women is. That guy that wrote the 500 push-ups comment was funny because it was like he really acted like he knew my diet or something. It was crazy. It's like, what's wrong with you? I saw a YouTube video of a woman who made a Tinder account, and by the end of the week, she had 99 plus matches. Yeah, but see, that's why I said, why go on those dating websites? Why approach if it's just loads of men talking to one woman who's not even interested in most of the guys that approach her anyway? To me, it just seems like a big waste of time and just like it's more trouble than it's worth. Gym Max. Who the hell has money to buy and eat fast food on a yeah, but see again, these people don't know what my diet is. They don't know what your diet is, but they just assume it because they have to push pedal their narrative. But according to them, remember we're all broke, but then we also have the money to go and buy fast food every day of the week. Even table scrap think they're sevens. Like I said, man, every both of those chicks I showed the picture of my best friend, he was like, really? This is who they're doing this stuff over? And like I said, people get so mad. You talked about the way she looks, even though I'm not putting up anyone's picture. I'm not even saying these people are ugly. What I am saying is it's ironic to have people try, like men try to insult me over my appearance, which has nothing to do with the, points that I make. But then we have women in real life that men are seeing and they're like, yeah, she's not worth doing all that for. Because like I said, you don't have 30 women trying to approach me or having to compete with each other to get in my good graces. So it's not really a good comparison. Well, blame the men who are in their DMs. Yeah. Well, I don't contribute to that. I'm not part of any of these people's reverse gender harems. I just think chicks just treat people like trash. That's the best way to put it. Because like if I was talking to some woman I wasn't interested in, I would not speak to that person. But they'll do that with a bunch of men because they're just bored. And then if you get upset over, you know, being gassed up for months with this red herring crap, people try to make it seem like there's something wrong with you. How dare you think that this woman that spoke to you every day and told you how much you meant to her actually wanted to go on a date with you? Ugh. Like I said, it seems like there's no reward or benefit in doing this. Anyone have anything else left to say? I'm getting ready to get off of here because I think we made our points. Just to clarify, I'm not calling anyone. Yeah, well, that was my point. That we're not saying people are ugly, and even if I thought they were, it doesn't matter because remember, I don't do what my detractors do to me to them. I don't go and say, well, because I don't think you're attractive. Nobody in this whole world of supposedly different types of people will think you're attractive. I actually was able to find an article that said 4 in 5 African American women are overweight, and I'm like, why do I have to have muscles to go on a date with a group where the majority of its members are overweight? If this poll is true, like why you see where it's like so ridiculously unbalanced. Like it was one thing for them to not exercise. There are a lot of people who don't exercise and aren't overweight. It's like if they're overweight, why do you have to have muscles? Like I don't understand that. And anytime they get into that cash stuff, it's always BS because, like I said, even guys that are poor still end up having to pay for the woman's stuff. It's never the woman taking care of the man ever. Because, like I said, they don't even offer anything other than their triangle. But people don't like admitting that because, what's really funny? It's like they try to say that women are independent, they don't need a man, and then it's like, okay, if that's true, why do I need to be a millionaire to go on a date with one of them? You get why that's ironic? Like it goes back to that equality myth where people try to say that things are more fair or they're more equal or they want things to be more fair and more equal, but then they're okay with women not approaching men, even the ones they find attractive. They're okay with men telling other men they have to have money to go on a date with a woman who doesn't own anything except what's in between her legs. Like it's really comedic. The hypocrisy. Even table scraps. Any further comments? I'm getting ready off here, and I'm just trying to wait. Anything else being written, typed? I can't wait to make some series that goes on for 50 plus years and nobody knows who I am. That was so sad this past Friday. I don't get people at all. Oh, they're very ridiculous. And they have a lot of double standards. I don't know, that it just feels like the main purpose of women now, like in relation to men, is not actually to date someone that they like, that they want to spend time with. It's just like they're just used as a way for people to treat you like trash. With all of these like weird psychoanalysis games that these men online play, um, and this unsolicited advice that no one could ever meet anyway because it's a bunch of stuff that most people don't even have. They're just used to attack you. So it's like they have no purpose for you. Like I believe most women that aren't related to you, like some like your mother or some other person, they have nothing to offer you other than being used to attack you with. And we're not even just talking about like if you get rejected. There are relationships that I have mentioned on this channel before where the guy loses money because he's with the woman, or he gets put on child support, or some other circumstance that would not have happened if he was single. If someone was trying to become a millionaire, they wouldn't have time to get in a relationship anyway. Yeah, but then it's like imagine having to have $1 million to go on a date with a woman who doesn't own anything. Like you're not going on a date with Beyonce or Rihanna or like Scarlett Johansson or somebody else that actually like can meet that standard. You're going on a date with someone that nobody ever heard of that doesn't own anything usually. Like, and like I said, if you actually do this stuff and you get rejected and you're like pissed because you did all this stuff to get a date, they're not going to say, "Oh my God, what's wrong with these chicks? Look at how great this man is." They're going to say, "Oh, you're entitled. You think women owe you something because you did this stuff." Because again, it's always your fault. The romance crucifixion, or the romance scapegoat, excuse me. All these personal attacks just because somebody does a video about how hard it is to get a date. Like when I did the "I've been criticized for everything" video, it was to show that they will attack you over every and anything. Just again, not because you've insulted them personally, you've done something to them. They just want to defend chicks no matter what. So they have to launch all these personal attacks. Because again, chicks really are not as cracked up as people make them out to be. Like, yeah, it sounded good on paper to get married and after being with some woman for a long time that you actually like, but that's something that very few people are even seeming to get at this point. So I completely recommend hookers if you you know want to experience some kind of sexual stuff without having to go through all the ridiculousness of prologue and red herrings and whatnot. And again, if you want to do that, be my guest. I don't discourage anyone from uh, you know going about it whatever way they'd like. I don't like the character assassinations that go on this website over people that really aren't worth doing this for in the first place. So thanks for watching. I hope that if you like a series or a show, you actually try to figure out who made it, because I think people should be remembered for doing something that is good or important. Jack Kirby was one of the most influential people in pop culture history, in my opinion, and it's a real damn shame that his stuff is more popular than it's ever been by virtue of these movies, and people don't know who he is. So I hope that's rectified. I'm not going to hold my breath. I'll remember him forever because that's who I am. I like to know, give people credit when they do something right. So have a good day.